Hey everyone, it's Denise Brown from the Caregiving Years Training Academy. I have a colleague that I interact with fairly regularly who tells me about her caregiving experience in a way that strikes me as tone deaf. Now, you might have someone in your life like this too. And I think what's particularly interesting is that she's a former family caregiver. So usually someone who's tone deaf in our world around our caregiving experience is someone who hasn't been there, done that. This particular colleague will share her story in such a way that she's had the most challenges, it's been the most difficult, it's been the worst. When I listen to her story, even when she tells her story in a group of family caregivers that I know, oh my gosh, I could say she, he, all of them have had it worse. She still is not aware of that. She's tone deaf. So in two training programs that I lead, our caregiving guide and our caregiving facilitator programs, I share how do you manage when you're leading a workshop and an attendee sounds tone deaf. That's our caregiving guide program. Then I also share if you're running a support group meeting and you have a member who sounds tone deaf, how do you manage that? So it's managing the group dynamic during those two particular training programs. And I've been thinking about, but how do I manage when it's one-on-one? And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm getting really frustrated. So what I finally figured out is it's okay if she is tone deaf because I can choose not to be. And if I choose not to be tone deaf when she shares about her experience, I can say something like, wow, that sounds so challenging. I think about all the family caregivers during the pandemic who had an aging relative and school age kids. And I think, how did they make it through? So then I take, I guess you could say, the spotlight off my colleague and her experience and broaden it to think about, gosh, how did others manage? And that way, I'm not irritated and frustrated with my colleague, but I'm empathetic to others in the world. And I guess that's what I'm looking to tap into for myself, my ability to empathize with others. And I guess that's pretty much what I think is missing in my colleague, who has other great characteristics, but we all are human. So there's always something that maybe is a little bit of a weakness without sounding judgmental. So anyway, when I connect with this colleague next, I'm going to receive her story about how hard her experience was. And I'm going to receive it and say, oh gosh, that sounds just like such a drain on you for so many years. And then I'm going to pivot out to empathize with others. And I can change who I describe as having challenging experiences. I can, again, use that example of caring for aging relatives and having school age kids during the pandemic. Or I can talk about a younger spouse who's in a caregiving situation and raising young kids. Or I can talk about an individual who's caring for several family members all at the same time and keeping a job. So when I broaden out my perspective, I stay connected to an empathetic heart. And I guess in many ways, maybe I could look at my colleague's conversation as the inspiration for me to think out loud, wow, who might have had a really tough time yesterday, and describe who they are. It's not about changing her. It's about changing me during our conversation so I'm not irritated and frustrated, because that just is a drain on me. I interact with her regularly. I want the interactions to be positive. I'm not going to be in a situation where I don't interact with her, so I want to change how I am in the interaction. And if I think out loud about others in the world who could be struggling and connect to that empathetic perspective, then I take the focus off my frustration on her and bring it out into, oh, I hope others in challenging situations have help and support and resources right now. And then I feel better. Okay. I'd love to know though, what do you use during interactions with someone who's tone deaf, especially when it's another family caregiver? What are the strategies that have been helpful for you? I'll also share information about our guide and facilitator trainings in the show notes. We actually have a sale, a summer sale going through June 9th. It's 40% off. So if you've been thinking about those programs, waiting, wondering, now's the time. 40% off through June 9th. And you can go to caregiversacademy.com for more information. Okay, thanks as always for watching. Thanks for all you do. Bye-bye.